few things?
Yeah,
Well, wait a minute, let's reopen the meeting at 7 o'clock, we'll call it. Go ahead, James.
so a couple things. I went out to the cemetery department today to look at that project, and that's moving along. The excavation has been done for the footings. The footings and foundation are supposed to be completed at the end of this week. Carrie and I went on a field trip today out to the Stone Mountain Business Park, and that has progressed very well over the last 2 weeks. So just some updates on those two things there. I believe the water, the materials for this water main upgrade, Rick, I saw a truck come through early this morning with all the pipe. Yeah, for pallet, and I had a meeting with Rick today with the Department of Environmental Services, 3 gentlemen from there and a couple engineers from Cada and Howard on some upgrades to the sewer plant for the future that we're going to try and work on.
Yep. No, good.
So, that's my update for that. But,
Yeah, no, I'm glad everything's moving along smoothly and quickly. Nobody else from the board had anything to do?
actually, yes, I have a question for Liz.
I'm not here for the school board, but what's your question?
It's a really simple one. The oil tank that was removed up the stove,
Yes.
the big tank, is the company disposing that, or what? Are they taking it away?
We're pulling my memory. My recollection is that the bid included the complete job. So yes, removal of, disposal of anything that came up out of the ground.
All right. Are they, do you know if they're on site still?
I don't know if they're on site still. I can have Ian follow up. Do you have a specific?
Well, I do, because I'd like to take a look at that tank. My understanding is that it does need a little bit of work on basically the connecting areas. But if I can inspect it myself, if I think that it's good enough shape to have a company inspect it, I'd like to talk to the company about either, I don't know what the purchase agreement was with the town, if that was part of the deal, whatever, but I've been talking about putting a tank in the ground out here for probably 10 years now, so we could run a line to the fire station, to the library, and here, and
Yep.
meter them, so we'll know what they're using. And like I told the school 3 years ago, the deal that I was able to make with the 2 oil companies, we could save a ton of money.
Well, I can definitely have Ian follow up.
I appreciate it.
Yep, I will do that.
Thank you.
Do you want him to reach out to you on your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
That's a Dixie cup still, but
Dixie cup with a string on it. You gotta pull the string tighter if you can't hear them clear. Ooh,
we already know.
it's for me, I'm not home. All right, I'm guessing Dan's here.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, we'll turn it right over to you.
Thank you so much. Good evening all. Thank you very much for the chance to be here. My name is Dan Weeks, Director of Market Development at Revision Energy. And
Can you just move closer to the mic, or you can take your mask off? It doesn't matter. It's just hard to hear.
okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I apologize for a slight miscommunication. Thought there would be a projector here for a slide deck that I have. That is not the case, but if it would be of any help, I could certainly place the laptop on the table, not visible necessarily to all of you, so we can also just, I can give the highlights verbally, and then you I believe, have received the presentation materials, the proposal materials. Great. So the key details are in there. I'll just have this here. I know it's not of much use from such a distance, a small screen. I do apologize about that. But again, really appreciate the chance to be here. By way of quick background, Revision Energy, that's probably easier. Revision Energy is a local New Hampshire company. We've been in business for 17 years. I'm our Director of Market Development, but proud to be a co-owner with the entire company, 270 of us working across New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. And my co-owners are the electricians, the apprentices who build our systems, as well as the professional team and myself who help lead the company. And so we would be very honored to partner with you, as we've been fortunate to do with a number of communities throughout New Hampshire. As I can elaborate, if helpful, and certainly send the full slide deck if you'd like, we have been fortunate to work with a number of cities and towns across the state. Some of them that you see in the materials are the city of Keene, just up the road here, where we are gearing up for the installation after an extensive RFP process. The second round, actually, with the city of Keene, we built a large rooftop system for their Department of Public Works and the Police Department 2 years ago, and then we're awarded an RFP for their wastewater treatment plant. So a similar type of facility to what we're presenting here tonight for the Winchester treatment plant up the road from here. And we've done a number of other wastewater treatment plants. City of Concord recently also awarded an RFP to Revision, and then a number of the other large communities like Nashua and Manchester, and a lot of small towns like Winchester as well. So we think we know what we're doing by now after about 10,000 systems installed, from residential up through large commercial and municipal. And we're very excited to be back. I did enjoy meeting with a few of you, I think 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, when we were beginning to explore a number of different possibilities for the town. And I can briefly allude to those if you'd like to, possible future opportunities, but I do want to keep the focus, with your time being very precious, on the immediate opportunity that we developed with Rick and the team. So as you've seen in the proposal, what we are glad to put in front of the town for your consideration is a good-sized solar array for the wastewater treatment plant. This would be a 294 kilowatt DC array, 240 kilowatts AC. That's the inverter rating. Happy to get into more of the technical details if that's helpful. Really, the key number for your consideration is the power output per year. We generate a production report, which you've seen in the proposal, using the local weather data, about 40 years of historic weather data for this region, in terms of basically the number of sunlight hours per year on an average basis. And that allows us to project, given the specifications of the array, a 35-degree tilt. We have a pretty much perfect 180-degree southern orientation on the backside of the plant. There would be some tree clearing required, of course, to avoid shading and to create enough of a footprint area. But given all those factors, using design software that we've used for many hundreds of similar systems, we're projecting 386,500 kilowatt hours per year, which would be a full offset for the plant and would contribute to some of the remaining town load. You do have the production report. If there are any technical questions about that, I'm happy to get into them. But frankly, the most relevant, I think, for you as the Board of Selectmen is the financial implications for the town. So I can skip through a few slides, but maybe just put the question to the select board members. Were there, in the materials you saw, any technical questions about the type of installation we're talking about, the type of equipment that we're using, any of that engineering?
I didn't have none. Nope.
Okay, thank you. Again, happy to come back to that in future if helpful. I'll simply say that we are a full-service solar company. There are a lot of good folks simply developing projects. I think part of what we offer is, in addition to doing the financial modeling, we do all the engineering in-house. We have a large engineering team with professional engineers that have a couple of decades of experience doing this type of design work. We also do the full financial and legal, so we place financing for a power purchase agreement, which I'll provide a quick overview of in a minute, and we take it through the permitting process, working with other folks here at the town hall to get permit approval, working with NHDES when necessary on the environmental approvals. So that's all our job, and then taking it all the way through construction, commissioning, and future service. So you would be dealing only with Envision Energy. I did just flash here a couple of the earlier designs that we did. Don't need to get into them now, but needless to say, from those prior discussions a couple of years ago, the town certainly has real estate not currently used for other purposes, which could be very promising for future solar development. To be very direct, even in the last couple of years, the incentives for solar have declined, and state policy has presented a barrier to development of separate off-site solar projects. For that reason, when Rick reached back out, we were very glad to talk about something on-site directly servicing the load at the plant. Anytime you can offset real-time behind-the-meter consumption, you're saving full retail price of electricity. The moment you generate additional power, or if it's a remotely situated site and you're sending all that power to the grid, while you do have the right to sell that power to the grid up to 1 megawatt, unfortunately the value of those kilowatt hours is about 40% less than if you're using them on site, based on New Hampshire's net metering statute. Happy to talk more policy if it's of interest. Again, just wanted to make the point, the town has a lot of opportunity from a land availability standpoint, and there have been a number of efforts with good bipartisan support to move New Hampshire forward on some policy. If and when those are adopted in the future, which I suspect they'll be in the next few years, it would probably be worth future consideration by the town, some potentially quite financially beneficial projects to reduce the tax burden locally. I did provide just a little bit of electricity load analysis. You recall that this array would generate a little under 400,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. We analyzed the many loads, more than a dozen town loads for which the town pays the electric bills every month, the number of pump stations, the main Duso Road facility, of course, and some other accounts like the one here at Town Hall. The three primary loads, which account for most of your collective load as a community, add up to a little over 400,000 kilowatt hours, 420,000 per year. That data is a little bit out of date. We don't generally see a lot of variation, but we could certainly work with Carrie and the team to get the latest data and update that analysis. At the wastewater treatment plant on Duso Road, that is the single largest meter. So anytime we're talking to a community in the state, we always try to target where your biggest consumption is. Very often, as in Winchester's case, it's at the treatment plant. So you can kind of see here, sorry, it's very small, but the blue bar there is the annual load at the plant. The largest by far, but again, a little bit under what we would generate by the array. So to the extent, there's, in terms of making some waves in the state's overall adoption of clean energy, this would be one of the first, possibly the first. Keene looks to get there, although it'll take them a little while. It's a large project at a large plant. But I do believe this would be the first 100% clean energy, solar-powered wastewater treatment plant so far in the state. I won't get into details here, but this is an analysis we did where we go a level deeper in the electricity analysis. We look at the consumption of electricity every 15-minute interval over the last 12 months. This is the analysis we did with that granular data for Keene. We don't have that data yet for the town here, but could get that as well, working with the utility. The main point I want to make here is what we achieve with solar is really twofold. There is the savings that we model, because those are assured, which is the reduction in kilowatt hours consumed over the course of the year. That's the volumetric portion, as the utility refers to it. But if anybody's studied their home electric bill or a municipal electric bill, you see that a chunk of your expenditure is also for kilowatt demand charges. We think of the kilowatt hours as sort of the volume of water in the bathtub. Kilowatt demand is the amount of water flowing through the spigot at a given moment in time. anytime you're using a lot of power at a particular moment in time, you're paying additional charges for the utility to maintain enough capacity on the grid to deliver that maximum power consumption. Because most facilities use their peak power during daylight hours, and often more so during summer daylight hours when solar output is at its highest, you can realize additional savings on the demand side. However, because that fluctuates more consistently, and at a treatment plant you have a fairly steady load, including nighttime consumption, we think it's the right, conservative, responsible thing to not project any savings in that regard. So we give you a ballpark figure, but we don't actually work it into the cash flow analysis. Simply wanted to make the point that there will be additional savings. How much is hard to project. We can work with Carrie and Rick to get some more data to analyze that, but the numbers you have in front of you exclude those savings and are thus quite conservative. So a quick overview in terms of how the power purchase agreement works. I did have the chance to discuss this at a high level with a few of you a couple years ago, but for a quick refresher, if that's helpful, a power purchase agreement, as the name suggests, is an arrangement where the town is not actually buying the solar array, the panels, the rack, and the inverters. Instead, the town is buying the electricity generated by the array at a rate that is a little bit less than you're currently paying for those same kilowatt hours from the grid, from Eversource. The reason that most municipalities in New Hampshire, as well as nonprofits, we've done a bunch in the area and around the state, choose a power purchase agreement rather than a direct purchase is because, in their wisdom, the federal government set up what incentives exist through the tax code. That means if you're a taxed entity, a family, we got panels on my roof, so we could reduce our tax burden that way, or certainly a business, you're able to directly take advantage of the tax credits. At this point, it's a 26% reduction in system cost as a credit off your taxes, a reduction in taxes to the IRS. A town is a tax-exempt entity, and therefore, because you don't pay an income tax bill to the IRS, you have no way to take advantage of that incentive. The solution that was actually developed by the federal government at the Department of Energy under President Bush over a decade ago is this power purchase agreement model. What it simply does is pairs the town with an investor, a taxed investor who pays enough in taxes to take full advantage of the tax credit. They own the system for a minimum of 5 years, and they maintain the system for that period, meaning zero cost to the town to install a $750,000 system at the wastewater treatment plant. You buy the power from the investor for a rate a little below your current utility price, and then you have the option after 5 years, once the investor has fully monetized the tax credit, you have the option, not a requirement, but an option to buy the array out from the investor, and from that point forward, you own your power. And the advantage then is you're generating your own electricity. Yes, you have responsibility to maintain it. You can work with Revision or another company to provide that O&M service. Frankly, there's no moving parts. It's a pretty simple system. You know, panels are made up of silicon, glass, and aluminum. So very little maintenance is required anyway. It's totally optional. But by owning the asset for the long term, it is a 25-year warranty on the panels, a minimum 40-year commercial lifespan. So if you can own it for most of that time, that's how you'll get maximum savings. In Revision's case, we have a little bit of a twist on the power purchase agreement approach in the sense that the folks putting up the money as investors share our company's mission of just seeing more clean energy locally deployed, more local jobs, et cetera. So we've been fortunate to bring in some local families, some here in the Monadnock area that, again, want to see more clean energy deployed locally. And because they have that as part of their mission, they're willing to make less than market return on their capital. To be perfectly direct, if we were trying to finance projects like this off the commercial investor market, the amount of return that they look for on their money just wouldn't be feasible in a state like New Hampshire that doesn't have incentives, as they do down in Mass. So we've been very fortunate